Hello and welcome to section 22 of the Grand Tour of Northumberland. Today we're going to be looking at some Romano-British settlements, some standing stones, and a Roman graveyard and a Roman fort. So join us for section 22.
Digging through a closet with old CDs, past lives in boxes. Music absorbed till it's seeped from my skin. Can't stand to hear it. Means more to me than photographs. Pictures of backyard and northern sunsets are all that exist in my mind. Freshly cut lawns and daytime sprinklers, spider webs on a grey wooden fence. I remember the comedian.
So we're back near Hope and today is really busy. The car park is completely full and the cars parked along the sides along here. I don't know what's going on, but it's the first time I've been here when it's been busy. So we just had a little chat with a very nice lady who seems to be quite local. She's just been warning us about a lot of adders around today because of the weather. So me, hopefully, will get to see one. Neil.
Hopefully not. We've seen them before, haven't we, on the walk?
We have, but it's always good to see wildlife.
That's enough. You know, I don't want to be wrestling with a big python-sized adder.
Nick, whose channel's Blakehopeburnhaugh, he recently saw a slow worm as well as some adders. So let's hope we'll see one of them as well. So we leave the forest drive and we're taking this little track here. There's a lot of wild raspberries about, but they're past their best. This is a shame.
Yeah, you're right about those others.
It's very marshy here. Not sure we're going to get through this. Neil's got his wellies on, so he's going first. We've got boots and gaiters. There's a high iron content in the soil here. The soil's all orange. As Donna Vancini recently pointed out, they felled all the trees here. We're going up here. You can see where the path's marked out by like a little fence. So we're heading up that way. Well, the path's there, but there doesn't seem to be any way to get onto it other than going cross country. No doubt when we get there we'll find out. But for now we'll have to cross this ditch. So we made it onto the path. There's lots of tiny little frogs that are no bigger than a 10p piece. I've been trying to catch them on camera. I don't know if I caught any of them, but they're really cute. This was once all forest and you went to a little magical clearing in it. Not at the moment. Still some nice views. And this is what we have come to see. The standing stones known as the Three Kings.
The Three Kings?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Who's that guy?
But apparently it used to be 4 standing stones, one's fallen over. It used to be a 4-post standing circle like what we saw earlier at the Goat Stones. The site was excavated in 1971 where they found a Bronze Age stone cairn in the middle with an urn used for cremated bones. They also found a flint tool, and it's believed the cairn predated the stones that stand there today. There may once have been more in the cairn, but it had been robbed by treasure hunters around 1911-1912. An excavation in the 1940s suggests that there was once a larger stone circle, but the 71 dig found no evidence of this remaining. The name Three Kings comes from a legend that there were 3 Danish kings killed in battle here, but I can sadly find no tell of this tale anywhere. I've looked and looked and looked to try and find out a bit more about it, but nothing at all. Although James Hardy, in Richardson's 1844 book, the local historian Table Book of Remarkable Occurrences, writes about standing stones. In it he says, and I will read it, the general opinion, however, with regard to any unusual bulky stone is that it marks the spot where bones of mighty chiefs lie hid. Men who, like the northern Vikings, had their ill-gotten booty inhumed with them. And that is the only reference I have to standing stones and Vikings. Although James Hardy was actually writing about Dartmoor, not Northumberland. This hole here is where the cairn was dug out, and this was where the remains of cremated bones were found. And the site is also mentioned in John Wallace's 1766 book, but all he does is mention the location. There's a lot of other stones as well, which I think must have been part of the cairn. These smaller stones that come around. So it was cool to visit a stone circle because most of the ones in Northumberland have been destroyed. So the stones are almost the height of my daughter, each one of them. And this one that's on the ground is much bigger. That is almost the height of me. Okay, so now we have to double back on ourselves, and we're going down to where those caravans are over there and pick up the Pennine Way back. Originally I was going to take the grand tour along the Pennine Way straight to Chew Green. However, I learned that there was something interesting at Rochester, and I tried to find a way of changing the route. So we went up through those trees over there, but the rights of access were a bit dodgy and I couldn't quite make it work. So what we're going to have to do is we'll have to double back on ourselves along the Pennine Way a bit, and double back a little bit on the section that we did last time in order to pick up a path that will take us to Rochester. When you come over this bridge by the caravan site, the Pennine Way goes this direction, through this gate. This here is the River Reed, and on this section of the River Reed, in the 18th century, it was very famous for jaspers. I really want to get in amongst the stones if I can. At the moment I can't really see a place to do that. Okay, here's a spot where we can get into the stones along the side of the river. I'm going to have a look for some jaspers. The problem is I'm not quite sure what kind of jaspers they were talking about. It could just be Cheviot agates. I'm sadly not seeing anything at the moment. Only those two are actual jaspers, and the other two aren't. They just looked as though they were when they were wet, but now that they're drying, they're not. So they weren't exciting jaspers. It took us a long time to find them, but we did get two eventually in the end. So we made use of these picnic tables for our lunch, and we're heading back the way that we came on the last section, but eventually we'll turn left and go in a different direction. So we're passing the Hind Hope Trail again. As I say, we continue here and eventually we turn left at a quarry. So So this path here would take us to Deadwood, which is the first left, and that would take us to the path that we want. But if we go on to the next path, it will take us slightly closer to where we want to be. Okay, this is the road to the quarry, and we want the next path to the left after this road. Danger, no unauthorized access. Stay out. If the trees weren't there, I would have climbed over the fence just to have a look, but you're not going to be able to see anything because of the trees. So there's a road to the right, and we're taking this one over here to the left. If it helps, there's a little white marker there that's pointing straight on, but we're turning left, as I said, and we follow this track until we get onto some access land at the end. So here the road runs out and we have a little bit of rough ground to do between the trees before we get onto the open access land. But this way is actually better than the other way, to be honest. Okay, this track is very hard going. It's very overgrown with trees. Worse than the trees is the gorse. That's causing the biggest problem. This is very rough and tough going. Lots of gorse, trees in the way, and very long grass with lots of holes in it, and at the same time we're being absolutely hammered by deer fly. So we're nearly out of it now. Now there's still the last couple of trees here, and then at the end we're met with a brand new barbed wire fence, and there are millions of flies. I think we've got half the flies in Kildare around us at the moment, trying to get some distance between us and the wood. We've got insect repellent on, so that's stopping them biting, but they're still hassling us. We need a bit of a wind, to be honest. The second I switched my camera off and we startled two deer, we just ran off. One's heading over that way, but you're not picking up on my camera. So we come out the woods, but this ground here is very tough going as well, and we're being hounded by flies at the same time, which is not pleasant at all. We're kind of headed in this sort of direction. I'm not exactly seeing what's on the map, that's the trouble. Over there's the A68, and that wood over there is dead wood, so that gives you a bit of a geographical sense of where we are. Okay, so I'm thinking that hill there is Blackwall Low, so we need to be a bit further down in that direction over there. So when I was trying to plan this route, originally I was going to go up into those trees, and over there is a place called Long Cairn. There's actually two Long Cairns, there's one there and there's one a bit further along. And that's like one of the oldest structures in Northumberland. And then we were going to come down here, there's like a little bit of a track over there, and then along this bit of road on the A68 to here, and then there's a bridge. I was going to cross that bridge and then follow where we are going now, but that bridge has got a gate that looks as though it's locked and it's a private road, so I couldn't do that. The alternative was that we went through the ranges and dropped down and trespassed through the danger area, and again that was just too much of a risk for the Grand Tour Northumberland. So we ended up coming this way, which is a nightmare. On hindsight, we should have took the first path. It would have brought us a bit closer to a normal path along there, and we could have followed that and then done a detour around to see where we wanted to see. It would have been tougher through the trees than the one that we did, even though the one that we did was tough in the trees. But I think it probably would have been the easier route, because this ground here, these tufts of grass are nearly knee high in parts, and there's holes everywhere, and you just keep falling over all the time. It's not as bad as Glendew Hill, but it's not far off it. Every so often you come across these really nice little paths. As you can see by the footprints, they're actually deer trails, which usually means ticks. It's probably better to go in the undergrowth. This here is what we've come to see. All these stones in the middle of the field. Try and get a little bit of height. Ideally you need a drone for this one, but I'll put some satellite images so you can have a look from the satellite to see it from the air. So this place is called Burt Hope, and was originally a Romano-Briton site consisting of at least 5 stone circular houses, each with its own rectangular yard. The site was later reoccupied in the medieval period, but it was destroyed by Scots in 1584. What you see now is a mixture of the medieval village and the Bronze Age Romano-Briton village. There's another site over there which is called Woolaw, and that consisted of 4 round houses with rectangular enclosures. To be honest, I'm not quite sure if we're going to go that direction or not. We need to be down there in any case. I've come across these vehicle tracks and we've decided that we're going to follow these and hopefully get onto a proper path a bit further down, because this ground here is just absolutely miserable to walk on. I mean, it's nice to see this old village that's been destroyed, but it was really hard work, and my daughter's knackered, Neil's knackered, and we're just going to follow this track and hopefully it'll be a lot easier. So we dropped down to Burt Hope farm and we just got some directions of where to go. And the bridge is down where we wanted to go, so we have to try and use another bridge which is on private land, but hopefully it should be okay. And we're now following this path because up on the top there was an absolute nightmare to walk, and this is nice easy walking.
And that was confirmed to be a nightmare by the people that live here. So if you're feeling bad, that's perfectly normal. Because they feel bad and they do it every day. But
Yeah.
really nice people.
Yeah, very nice people, and yeah, I'm going to have to redesign this section of the walk because this is just, you can't do this really. This walk is just turning into an absolute utter nightmare. This is heavily overgrown, this path. And that's the path. The other side looks a bit better than this side. Okay, so that's the hard bit done. That was horrendous. And this section, and then basically there's no way to get to Rochester. That's easy. So you'll come to ride up the official Grand Tour. It'll just miss all this section out and the next section and just use the Pennine Way and go straight to Chew Green. And this will be like an optional section for those who are adventurous, but keep in mind that this is a very, very, very tough ground. Some of the toughest ground you'll walk. So yeah, so the footbridge is out further on, so we have to use this bridge and head onto the road. It's a nice bridge. It's a private bridge, this, like, so we are trespassing to do this, but apparently the council has not replaced the bridge that they took away, so it's our only option. So now we've got a short section of very busy A68 to walk. I think we'll get away with walking on this side for a bit. And we enter Rochester, which is where we parked the car.
Village of Dreams.
But unfortunately it's not the end of the walk just yet. We've just got to do a quick loop to the fort and the graveyard. So we're coming to Rochester and we're greeted with this. I'm not quite sure what it is. It looks Roman, possibly.
close at 4.
Right.
They're not open on Mondays, in case anyone wants to know.
That's the last cafe in England. As Neil's just said, they close at 4 and they're not open on Mondays.
Good place to pick up some brochures.
There's our wrap up there. 4-post stone circle, like we saw at the very beginning of the walk. Petty Nose. We're going that way on this track. Behind me is Petty Nose Roman Cemetery. In fact, this entire field is part of Petty Nose Roman Cemetery. The reason why I changed the Grand Tour route was to visit this, and honestly, I'm knackered. I wish I hadn't changed the route, to be honest. I mean, it's really interesting to come here, and I'll show you around, but the effort to get here was just absolutely horrendous. So let's have a look at this old Roman cemetery. So all these mounds are part of the cemetery. And if you didn't know what you were looking for, you wouldn't know that it was here. Petty Nose is the largest known Roman cemetery associated with an auxiliary fort in Britain. It consists of around 100 barrows, and they found the remains of men, women and children. It covers this entire site. Those barrows over there. There's more barrows across here, and across onto here as well. This here where I'm stood is the Roman road at Deer Street. It goes to a Roman fort over there, which we'll be visiting in a minute. And this is what I came to see. 4 mounds. There's one there, there's another one behind, and another one behind. Each of these mounds are graves. And this one here is quite special. Of the 4 graves, this one and the other 2 were rectangular base. This 4th one is a circular drum and cone type tomb. It's one of only 5 discovered in England. Tomb of this size would have been for a very high ranking Roman soldier. And this is the reason why we put all that effort into coming here, was to see this. This is the tiny little hamlet of High Rochester, which is built inside the fortifications of a Roman fort called Bremenium, which translates as the fort on the roaring stream. On the inside of the fort, you can't really see a great deal, but when we walk around the outside, you'll see it a lot more clearer, and you'll see it even clearer when you see it from the air. Imagine living inside a Roman fort. I bet you would have the metal detector out the first day you moved in. The first fort was built at the end of the 1st century AD in support of the Roman invasion of what is now southern Scotland. However, the Romans withdrew and built Hadrian's Wall in 122 AD instead. The fort was rebuilt in 140 AD as a staging post to the Antonine Wall in modern day Scotland, and was stationed with the first cohort of legionaries from modern day France. The Antonine Wall was abandoned in 160 AD, but the fort remained as a scouting post. The fort was further strengthened in 216 AD and was occupied by the combined infantry and cavalry first cohort of Vaudoulis, a 1,000 strong unit of scouts from modern day Basque area, commanded by Lucius Caecilius Optatus. The fort was massively fortified with as many as 13 defensive ditches to the north. fixed stone ramparts and artillery positions for ballista, which was quite rare for an auxiliary force. The fort was attacked and burnt by Picts in 342 AD and supposedly again in 367 AD. It was abandoned before the end of the 4th century. Mark Nichol does an excellent video of the fort, and you can find a link to his channel down below. There's some steps going down to what appears to be a spring or a well of some sort. So then, Neil.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a thumbs down. It was really tough, this one. Long and arduous, through the forest, through the ticks. We saw some deer, which was quite nice, but then we were just beaten by the big grassy stumps, and it was always long. It was tough. It was really hard. I found this hard going, this one. I'd probably advise to either alter this or miss this section out, or maybe do the latter part of the section. The latter part's quite good. Just a bit in the middle. I did think we got a little bit lost at some point in time. So yeah, I did find this tough going. So, but my level of fitness isn't the best. So other people might find it not too bad, I guess.
Yes, yeah, there's no way to get to Rochester other than walking along the A68. That's literally the only way to get here. There are some really good things at Rochester to see. The Roman graveyard, fantastic. The Roman fort, brilliant. But you just can't get here without going through an absolute horrendous nightmare of a field and forest. One of the highlights of the walk was actually the two ladies at Burt Hope farm who helped us after we came off that absolutely horrendous field. Even they couldn't believe that we had crossed that field, especially with my daughter. They just couldn't get over that she managed to get across it. So I should never have changed the walk. I should have kept it as it was and just followed the Pennine Way to Chew Green. As much as Rochester is really interesting, it's just not worth the effort to get here, and there's just no other way to get here than the way that we came. So if you like the walk, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment below, hit the subscribe button for the next adventure, share with your friends on social media, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye!
Digging through a closet, walled cities, past lives and boxes. Music absorbed till it's seeped from my